Hi everybody, my name is Ken Zalewski. I work at the New York State Senate. I manage our application development department, and I graduated RPI back in '91 and then stayed on for my master's in computer science in '94. So I had classes with Dr. Morthy, and I know Dr. Goldschmidt from our first job right after RPI and being here at RPI, so this is bringing back a lot of memories being here and in this evening too, so thanks for having it over here rather than JEC. One of the things when I got out of RPI that I thought a lot about was at the time, right around 1994 when I got my master's, Linux had just been developed. I think the kernel was in the 0.9 phase, and I kept thinking to myself, you know, open source software, stuff like Linux, this is really applicable to both government and to education. And let me move forward. In 2009, the New York State Senate flipped its majority. For 44 years, it had a Republican majority, and in '09, the Democrats took the leadership of the Senate. And they had an initiative to really open up the Senate. Traditionally, the legislative body, both the Senate and the New York State Assembly, the New York State Legislature as a whole, has been a very closed body. So the technologists that worked in the Senate worked on projects that benefited the senators, that kept the Senate running, but it wasn't really about outreach to constituents, about the citizens of New York. That all changed in 2009 when the focus was on more interactive government with New York citizens. And all of our projects have to meet three criteria: transparency, participation, and efficiency. Transparency being what a lot of people have heard, open government, right? We've all heard the buzzword open government. That's not just a buzzword, it's, you know, we're putting that into practice, taking everything that our legislative body does and publishing it for constituents to see. Participation means getting citizens involved in government, not just a one-way, you know, here's what we're doing, but hey, what do you think? You know, polling citizens, getting feedback, getting their comments on legislation, and finally efficiency. Of course, we all talk about government efficiency, and that is cutting costs, getting things done faster, more effectively, cutting down our workflows so they're as optimized as possible. Open source software fits into all of these categories. So one of the really great things is we hired a CIO back in 2009 who was very, very much on board with open source software. We were very lucky to have him. And he basically said, go for it. You know, any projects that you can accomplish with open source software, let's prefer that over licensed software. Microsoft wasn't so happy, but we as a team were. So we had some areas of focus when we started out in 2009. One, the first priority was reinventing the Senate's website. The Senate had a very static, antiquated website. We redesigned it. We used an open source product called Drupal. Show of hands, how many people have heard of Drupal? Most folks here. So Drupal is an open source content management system. In fact, the website is so popular now that the White House has been in touch with our department talking about how they can more effectively use Drupal. Other legislatures around the country have also been looking into it. Constituent relationship management, I'll talk about in just a little bit, but basically that's the science of communicating and understanding what your constituents need. So as an elected official, in fact, as Dr. Morthy said, I'm an elected official in the city of Troy. I'm on the Troy City Council. One of my biggest jobs is to communicate and understand what my constituents need and to make sure that I'm getting their problems solved. CRM systems, and in business we call it management, but in government it's constituent relationship management, and that is how senators interact with their constituents and how they can solve their problems. Our web services, SAGE stands for Senate Address Geocoding Engine. I'll talk about in a little bit. It's all about how you take an address and figure out where that person is, what district they're in, what assembly district, what Senate district, what congressional district, what's their latitude and longitude. Legislative data, a service called Open Legislation and BillBuzz, I'll talk about in a little bit. Help desk, problem tracking, and software development. That's what I'll be discussing. On the internet, Senate's old site was very static. It was very difficult to update. The senators had almost no control over it. If they wanted to change something, they had to call up someone in central staff and say, hey, I'd like to add an image to my site. You know, can you do that for me? Of course, we moved over to Drupal. We empowered the senators to control their own content. So now all 62 senators have their own page. Their staff can log in. They can manage their carousel. I'll show you an image of the, this is a sample from our website. So This is the main page, and of course, the folks that know Drupal understand that certain content deep down in the site can be promoted up to the front page, so you can get messages from the majority leader. I apologize for my voice. I'm in the middle of a cold, so I'm doing the best I can. We have a little session notifier here, so when the Senate actually goes into session where legislation is being passed, you can see that. Of course, you can connect on Facebook, Twitter. So we have social media links. This is a sample of a specific senator's page, and you can see the senator himself has control over his carousel. He can put his own news stories out, promote stories. There's other areas on the site where you can leave feedback for the senator. So the site became a much more interactive site. It wasn't just about publishing static content, but really understanding what constituents thought of legislation and the senator's stance on issues. This is an example of, we've integrated a service called OpenStreetMaps, or people are familiar with OSM, OpenStreetMaps. So we use OpenStreetMaps to generate district maps so you can understand, what area a senator represents. In this case, this is Senator Neil Breslin. His current district is all of Albany County. We just went through, because of census, the 2010 census, we just completed redistricting throughout the state. So congressional districts are changing, assembly districts, senate districts, etc. Our intranet, Dr. Morthy is going to remember this. We've talked about the Senate's intranet for quite a while. It's still an ongoing project. Our intranet is, for lack of a better word, lame. We use Lotus to create the intranet. Lotus is a commercial product from IBM originally, and it's really inadequate. We're talking about using Drupal, possibly Drupal Commons or Open Atrium, to reinvent the Senate's intranet. That project has not taken form yet. This is the current intranet, and you can see if this makes you cringe, this was very reminiscent of the original Senate's website before we used Drupal to redesign it. It's very static. Everything is listed out. There's no organization. Every time I try and find something on the intranet, it takes me a while. There's no rhyme or reason to how things were posted there. So that's a project that's about to happen. CRM. CRM is our biggest project, and it was the next highest priority after the redesign of the website. So CRM, the original system that we used was called OMIS. It was a main